got lots of news to talk about. We only have a short time to get there. Smoking the Bandit style. So CM Punk is back. Collision is going to be the debut, or he's debuting at Collision or returning at Collision, the United Center, June 17th. Voices of Wrestling, Joe Lanza was talking about it on his show. And I don't want to say that I can independently verify what he's saying, but everything I'm about to tell you is stuff that JD and I heard earlier in the week. So I think we might know a little bit of the same people that Lanza knows, but so real quick. So he said that Tony wasn't going to announce the United Center until Punk had signed. So that's why the delay, that he had signed the Brawl Out NDA and other legal documents. But at no point in this entire ordeal has Punk ever wavered on showing up on the 17th. And that's exactly what we'd heard. Said he said Punk was always going to come back. And if it were up to him, he'd be working Wednesdays and Saturdays too. So on Wednesday, Punk and Tony were back on solid ground discussing booking ideas. Punk asked to be taken off the press materials because he didn't want advertised in advance, same way the Last Dance occurred. He was always planning to come back. He never threatened to bail. He did sign an NDA to not ever speak about Brawl Out. He also signed legal papers requiring him to attend television tapings when asked. And the segregation to Saturday. So him being kind of, cast aside and thrown on Saturday, that was the elite. Specifically, the Young Bucks wanted that. So this was the Young Bucks getting their concession. Punk was very contrite and apologetic about the press conference, and that he told Punk outright apologize to Tony about the press conference. And Punk has tried to contact the Bucks, and the only response was from their lawyers. Also, Ace Steel, the issue was dealt with on Tuesday. The Elite basically does not want Ace Steel back, so their concession was, okay, if Punk is demanding he come back, we don't want him back on the road, so he must be working from home, despite the fact that they won't even be anywhere near Collision. They just don't want the guy back on the road at all. They're probably afraid he's going to become a rabid dog and continue to bite people.
Full moon is a real thing, my friend.
Yeah. He said there's a sizable, very strong anti-Punk camp in AEW. There's a much smaller but existing anti-Bucks camp who I think the Bucks are passive-aggressive assholes. And there's also a third camp that simply has Punk fatigue and is just done with all the drama. But the largest camp in AEW of all is the neutral camp, people who just want to come to work. I said a lot in a short amount of time. JD, what do you make of this whole mess?
I think we always say, well, the locker room says this, the locker room says that. And it's like, you have never gone into a place. You are a leader of young men, as of my young years are older than mine. Are they ever on the same page? Have you ever had everyone that you're working with on the exact same page?
No. Well, and when you're talking about, I want to know what the sample size of the locker room is, because one time I had somebody call me and said, hey, I heard your flight in the Air Force, we call it a flight. I heard your shop is miserable. There's a lot. What's going on there? Why is everybody miserable? And I reached out to some folks and I started talking to everybody. Turns out it was one person. It was one person that was just trying to get out of the military, and that one person became the overall sample size of my workplace, right? And then we capitulated. We got that person out of the military. They're having a great life right now. But like, if they're talking to just a couple of people, that isn't completely representative of the entire locker room. So we kind of like, hey, there's this large contingent. You might have talked to 2 people versus 3.
No, and I'm not saying there are people that would have problems, but I mean, like, there's other people that have come out and, like, guys like Danhausen and Brody King have been very clear, very public, that they are both CM Punk guys.
Yeah.
Right? Hobbs has been someone that's been said as a Punk guy. Like, there are people in this company. It's not like everybody hates him. There are people that really hate him, though. I mean, like, and this is why I read these things like, well, this is, and like everyone, like, in no job in the world is everybody on the same page with the same things, right? Everyone has different values. Everyone has different social mores. So, and everybody, we've talked about this too. Everybody's got to go to work with people they don't like. Now, maybe those people didn't throw a chair at their face, but, we all got people that we don't like at our workplace. Realistically, this company kind of needs a shot in the arm right now. So I think that this is a good thing. And I like that the entire advertising campaign this is where you can watch Tony Khan's Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah. So Scorpio Sky is back and he's going to be on Collision. We heard that Tony Khan hates that guy. So they're throwing him on Collision, throwing Andrade on Collision, Miro, Thunder Rosa, and now CM Punk. It legitimately is the people that Tony can't stand.
the dickhead division, if you will. And quite frankly, I think that's absolutely fascinating. I'm reading the Chic book right now, and that kind of sounds like what Detroit was at various times. So
Yeah.
I'm all for this. I think this is good. It's interesting. It's interesting. So I'm all for what is gonna kind of spice things up a little bit. I just hope they bring the truss out. I just want a big metal truss for the entrance to look like Nitro, because Collision got big old Nitro vibes.
Yeah, and I think right now, like, we haven't had episode 1, so it's like me saying this is kind of ridiculous. But
Yeah,
Collision seems like the more interesting show to me because it's got
100%.
all the assholes.
That too is like, okay, so it's like Schrodinger's show right now, right? It's both everything and nothing. It can be anything you want it to be, and that's what it is. Like, and then we've talked about it, like, because guys like us, we've talked about it with the Boss Man too. We have a little bit more traditional wrestling sensibilities, right? As opposed to like the stuff like the Bucks and the Lucha, more Lucha inspired stuff. So there's a possibility that the Collision show might appeal to the older fan a little bit more than Dynamite is. Again, that is just speculation amongst fans based on maybe evidence. It's like I said, it's Pandora's show, but we don't know what it is until it shows up. I do hope it's different, though. I do hope it feels different.
Yeah, me too. So you had a CM Punk conspiracy theory that you wanted to get into. Why don't you go and share that?
We're an hour in, and you want me to do this now?
Just try to do it quickly. Yeah,
I can't. I can't do that. Okay. So I cooked this up with a friend of mine who will go nameless. Like, let's be honest. People say Punk is trying to be a master politician. Wrong. CM Punk is like the worst politician in the world. If he was, none of this would be happening. Right? Yeah. The man is not Hulk Hogan. So if you're negotiating, like, let's be real. You heard the Art of Wrestling podcast with Cole Cabana from 2014, right?
Of course, yes.
Who hasn't? If you're listening to the show, I guarantee you've heard that thing. So, as you may be aware, the aftermath of that podcast left both men in a lot of trouble, and it actually pretty much destroyed their friendship, right? Those two hate each other, and nobody knows what really happened in all that but those two guys. All we know is they don't like each other. So if you're CM Punk and you are talking about coming back to or coming into wrestling for the first time in damn near a decade, and the one dude in wrestling that you sincerely hate happens to work for this company, you can't tell me that at some point the whole, well, is this guy going to stick around thing ever going to come up? Now, Punk says he had nothing to do with Cole Cabana being fired from All Elite Wrestling. A friend and I had this idea that perhaps Tony Khan was of the mind of, well, that's fine. His contract was about to end soon anyway. We'll just put him out to pasture, which, as we've seen, is kind of the way AEW deals with people. Like, when they're done with you, they just kind of say, thanks. They don't even do the whole, what is WWF?
Future Endeavors.
Future Endeavors. They didn't even do that.
Sometimes they don't even tell you.
Yeah, like, sometimes you just get fired and don't even know it.
Like, Leva Bates didn't even know her contract was coming up. She just thought she had a job.
Yeah, she was gonna be like Costanza showing up for work without a job. So I and my friend are of the mind that Tony Khan's plan was, I'm just gonna let this guy's contract run out, and then it'll be gone, and then things will be fine. Now, what happened is Cabana goes to do Young Rock down in Australia, and Ace Steel takes his place. And the problem is Cabana's got friends in the locker room who are pretty good politicians, who went and advocated and went to Tony and said, this is bullshit. You can't just get rid of this guy. He's our friend. And the Bucks had a lot of power in this company initially. All you got to do is look at people like Dana Massey having a job that she has and Brandon Cutler having a job that he has, and to say the Bucks are, especially early on, were super important. So they do have a lot of sway with Tony.
But executive vice presidents.
They are, but are they?
Yeah.
At the beginning,
have the title. Yeah.
At the beginning, yeah, for sure. But they lost their booking power because they booked the worst episode of Dynamite ever, right? With the original Dark Order kerfluffle, right? And so my friend and I cooked up this idea that, well, maybe this was their power play. And say, hey, man, no, you got to bring our friend back in. So Tony thought, fine, I'll make everyone happy. I'll put this guy in Ring of Honor, and he wanted for us to be here, and then it's whatever. And then that didn't happen, right? Like, sometimes when you try to make everybody happy, you make nobody happy. Because again, there is this, people think Punk's an asshole, but like you said, there's people in the locker room that think that the Young Bucks are just, passive aggressive and do this kind of stuff. So I mean, they're unhappy about their friend not having a job, when in reality, the guy drawing all the stuff at the time was Punk. Like early in the Punk run, he was the guy for the company that was drawing ratings and drawing pay-per-views and stuff like that. And guess what? This is pro wrestling. The stars have leverage. They do. So it seemed to be that some guys might have been good politicians and some guys might have been bad politicians. And in an effort to make all of them happy, things just exploded. Because I'm of this mind that Cabana was going to be dealt with in the most, non-aggressive way possible. Just let his contract run out. And that his friends advocated for him, which again, your friends should advocate for you. Your friends should throw chairs at people for you, as it turns out. So I'm just of this mind that Punk, as the star, didn't want to be around this guy that he absolutely hates. And quite frankly, none of us know what happened between those two guys. All we know is that it's super, super bad. And that's my conspiracy theory, is that Punk might not have asked for him to be let go, but it was kind of the mind that, okay, it'll just take care of itself. And then the Bucks pulled the power play, leading Page to be passive aggressive on TV to turn this thing up. Again, that dude gets blameless in all of this because he's, oh gosh, shucks, cowboy. That guy went out of his way to piss off a guy on TV who was going to freak out. And we all saw the freak out because, quite frankly, it's CM Punk. And if you look at Hangman Page's booking shortly after losing the world title, it sure looked like he got punished, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. Yeah,
it sure did. So again, Punk gets the lion's share of it because, like, a lot of fans really feel like they're like, the Young Bucks are really good at, like, the whole, this is our thing and we did this together as friends, and, like, the whole merch table culture thing. So a lot of people feel like they're friends with the Young Bucks, even though they're not.
Well, they did a really good job whenever they were on the underground of having this grassroots campaign, and they would hang out at their merch table and they would become friends with a lot of their fans. And so, like, they felt like they were a part of it. And then, like, the Bullet Club thing explodes, and the next thing you know, Young Bucks are just drawing money everywhere. So, like, and that was all because it was kind of a Bernie Sanders style, grassroots campaign where they went around the country, around the world, really touring around, and just got all these people behind them. And so, like, whenever you come at the Young Bucks, you're almost like coming at them too.
It is. And they did have a lot of, in this company, they had a lot of stroke and a lot of power. And then another guy comes around who might be the shiny new toy, who has a little bit more stroke and a little bit more power. And at first you're all about it until you figure out, hey, I'm not the cool thing anymore. Well, I'm going to use my power to get something that I want. Because realistically, why the hell is Colt Cabana employed by this company? He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I like Colt Cabana. I like Colt Cabana, but I can't help but sit there and look at all this and go, all of this over Colt Cabana and Ace Steel? Again, Chicago guy, hey, bring it home. But I mean, for these two, all of this stuff, so those guys could have a job doing whatever, it's ludicrous to me. It's absolutely ludicrous.
It is, but I also think that Ace Steel and Colt Cabana are the two biggest winners in this whole thing because they're the guys that get to sit at home and collect paychecks.
Yes.
And they're probably just providing notes on the show. That's probably all they're doing.
Cabana might not even be doing that. Like Steele's going to zoom into work, and I guess he's got a really good relationship with Punk, and he might have a very good brain for this producing thing because he did work for WWE in that capacity too. So he might be really good at his job. If he wasn't, I don't even think Tony Khan would consider hiring him back. But he must be good at what he does. So again, these two guys get to get paid well while sitting at home. Isn't that crazy?
I think they should go into the Observer Hall of Fame, like with Lanny Poffo. They should have like a wing for guys who got paid the most for doing the least. I think that they should have that.
The ultimate workers, right? Those are the best workers are the ones that just have friends in the right places, right? Brutus Beefcake, that whole thing. Yep. Yeah. So that's my CM Punk conspiracy theory.
I thought you were going to go another way with this because I had a conspiracy theory about all the leaking that's been going on and how we have mutual friends with Brian Alvarez, but he had this story so wrong from from the beginning, right? And I think that CM Punk kind of was like feeding, like indirectly, like had somebody feeding Alvarez bad information just so he can come out and call it fake news, right? Like I think that absolutely happened. I can't prove it. I got no evidence that that's the case because I don't know who the heck Brian Alvarez was talking to, but whoever he was talking to was dead wrong because you and I had this information like 3 days before Alvarez did. And it's basically all the things that Joe Lanza is saying. Like we had all of that already. I don't know who the hell this guy was talking to. I can only imagine that he got completely sabotaged, and that sabotage came from the Punk camp.
One thing I'll say for sure, in all of this, there's one thing that I have learned, and that's CM Punk hates Brian Alvarez.
He does.
He absolutely hates that guy. Because again, the scrum, right? He tries to take a shot at Hausman. Hausman's like, no, I don't like Cabana either, which should tell you something, by the way. But then he's like, and then Punk's like, oh, because he had a diatribe ready to go, and he couldn't use, because you could tell he had rehearsed that in his brain like he jerk started. He thought about it over and over again. And then he immediately turned to Brian Alvarez and was like, I don't like you. I'm going to turn this on you. And then you hear some of the stuff that Alvarez had said in the past. Like again, he was really talking about WWE booking in the mid 2000s. He's never going to be a guy, I don't like, blah, blah, blah. And then the whole Maria thing. Cause again, you read like that, Bix dug out those receipts, saying he was dangerous
that's
to
what
the,
Bix does.
That's you said it. That he's dangerous to the girls. I mean, quite frankly, if somebody had printed that, and I'm a petty person, so I would also hold that grudge for maybe 15 years or so. I mean, like, again, it's all stupid. It's all stupid wrestling stuff, and I kind of feel for Brian and all this, but it's very, 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 very clear he doesn't like him.
Yeah, I could see Punk being so petty to just try to feed Alvarez bad information just to make him look stupid on the air. Now, I'm not saying Brian Alvarez looks stupid on the air because day of, Alvarez had the story right day of, but 2 days previous to that, when everybody else already had the story, he had the complete opposite of what was true. And so I'm just like that. It had to be sabotaged. And the quote that Punk told Hausman was whenever he asked Hausman, like, "Who are you friends with Cole Cabana?" Hausman's like, "As a matter of fact, I'm not." And he goes, "Oh, well, you blew my spot."
That's the line. It's a funny line.
Yeah,
I wonder if Punk has like a blood sugar thing, because I never saw a human being look more miserable or sound more miserable at the same time than him in that press conference as while he was stuffing muffins down his face. Wow. But you and I, we're not scoops guys, nor do we claim, nor do we want to be, but we get information sometimes, and like it's been pretty good. Like we got some guys that give us some pretty good hookups with stuff, and it's weird when you see someone saying the exact opposite. Like remember months ago on this show, I said I'm not a WWE guy, but I said Sasha Banks is gone. Right? That turned out to be correct. Our good friend The Mask came on and told us that. By the way, he says Drew's coming back. So I take his word for it. So, yeah.